Thursday morning, November 7th. November 7th is, over the years, has been a really good date. A really good phase of the rut for me and for a lot of other people. I think you're about a week shy of when the highest number of does are in estrus. So there's enough of them now to get those bucks moving and looking, but not so many that every buck is tied down with the doe. You can kind of see behind me the fog's rolling in. It's pretty cool. It's really cool, actually. It's supposed to burn off pretty quick. It's supposed to be sunny today, and I can see up through the fog, up into the clouds, that the sun is starting to break through. We've got very, very light wind, and it's blowing up the bluff over towards the food plot, which, I don't know, I've kind of given up on trying to figure out how to hunt this. It just seems like every time we come in here, the wind does something different, but this time it's going in the wrong direction. The forecast shows that within an hour or so, 2 hours, it's supposed to turn and go back in the direction that we want, which is out over the top of the valley. Very light though. Not supposed to have much for wind today. I'd say it's going to be just a beautiful day. If you're out raking leaves or doing something like that, you know, have fun, but I'd way rather be up here in the tree today waiting on that buck to show up.
Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail App, Whitetail Institute, Research Equals Results, B3 Releases, XO Broadheads, Exact Sights, Muddy Outdoors Tree Stands, Stealth Cam Trail Cameras, and Hoyt.
It's 12:30. I'm going to bring you another update. I'm going to start off by saying I'm a little bummed that I ate my lunch 3 hours ago. But I've still got Carson's lunch if I can get that out of his bag. So, here we sit. Not a whole lot to report, unfortunately. You can hear the wind is blowing stronger. It kind of comes and goes. There's a doe fawn out in that Whitetail Institute oats plot that I've got up over my left shoulder. That's the first deer that we've seen in 2.5 days. I guess I've hunted here a couple other times. That's the first deer I've seen actually out there eating. I think we'll talk really quick about thermals. That might be a good subject for us today. We got in here this morning and it was really dead. The air wasn't moving at all. And the only thing moving as we were coming in were the thermals rolling down the valley. And they're fairly predictable if the winds, the day wind, is light and variable. Like for example, you can hear the leaves rustling. When you've got an actual wind, let's say 3 miles an hour plus, that's going to dominate over the thermals. People think the thermals are automatic, but they're not. The thermals only happen when the air isn't moving, through a normal weather system. So you need really light winds. Usually we get that here. A lot of times first thing in the morning and right at dusk in the evening, the winds will slack right down and then the thermals will kick in. So let's talk about how to predict those. If the sun is hitting the slope, like it is right below me here, the thermals would be coming up because the warm air rises. The density is lower when it warms up, so it comes up the slope. It actually goes up in the air. In the process of doing that, it moves along the slope and pulls more air in from below. So that creates an uphill thermal. And we don't feel those very often because we rarely have a day that's still enough to do that. What we really see the most of is when you get those downhill thermals. And that's when this valley goes into shadow and the day wind slacks off or dies. Then the air does just the opposite. The more dense air, the cooler air, drops down, hits the slope, and just follows the slope down into the valley. So if you had, let's say, enough water, or if it rained 10 inches, what direction would the water go? Where would the rain go? Where would the runoff? That's where your scent is going to go when the day winds drop off. And then one thing I've noticed too is that you don't have quite as many thermals if it's not sunny, if it's cloudy. I think it's because there's less difference between the air that's higher up, that's less dense, and then the air below that's more dense. I think it's all more dense. It just don't have as much difference, so you don't have as much noticeable movement of the air as it changes temperatures, because it doesn't change temperatures as much. So point being, I don't see them near as much on days that aren't sunny. I would say by the time we get out of here this evening, it'll probably be still, and we'll probably be, following the thermals down the hill. And I think that gives you an opportunity sometimes in this country, because if you're hunting in the valleys, you know that as the light fades, that the movement of air is going to tend to go down. So you can hunt the lower edge of things, whether it's a food plot or a trail crossing or a water hole or whatever. You can hunt the lower edge because that's the direction as the evening comes. The air is going to move your scent downhill from those locations. So I guess that's it for now. Is our little friend still out there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she's munching down. That little buck fawn that comes around. We kind of figure that maybe that would be, well, Carson came up with the idea that maybe that's his future soulmate. But I think if he came over here, she would reject him flat out. And that would be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. And he'd move on to the neighbors. You can tell we get pretty bored up here to come up with stuff like that. All right, back to hunting. I'll give you another update here in a few hours. The sun is still on the hills, so it isn't set yet.
Not yet.
Got about 45 minutes left, maybe a little bit more. We're gonna have better light this evening because it's not heavy overcast like it's been. Today hasn't been as good as I'd hoped, and it's not over yet, but so far it's been a little slow. And I guess we both have heard from a lot of people today. People like to text, I think, when they're hunting to find out what other people are seeing. Didn't seem like there was a lot of action. Ben saw a really big buck, and a guy in Illinois that I know, he said he ran into a buck that was, or several bucks that were on a hot doe. And I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm going to talk about what makes some days during the rut better than others, because everybody just assumes that for some reason from one end to the other it's just good. You know, like the rut is this high level of activity, but that's just really not the case. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, kick that around. For the rest of today, let's go back and look at what we've seen here in the last few hours. Really just that doe, right?
The fawn and then that one other doe.
Yeah, so we've had 2 antlerless deer come out into that food plot, that Whitetail Institute oats. They seem to really like the oats. I mean, that one doe came from who knows where into this plot, fed until she was full, which took her about an hour and a half. Then she just left the same way she came in, which was kind of weird. You know, just a middle of the afternoon, come in here, eat to her fill, and then leave. I wouldn't say that the food plots are necessarily where you need to be right now, but it's sort of an added bonus, if you want to call it that, to what we're doing here. Really, I think you want to be similar to what we're doing. We're on the edge, I'd say the fringe of the buck's range that I'm trying to kill. I think he's around here, I really do. I just think that if we put our time in here and we don't spook, you know, don't mess this up. We're not spooking deer all the time. We'll eventually get him here. But the biggest challenge is being able to hunt this consistently and not be bumping deer. You know, if we hunt it too much and the deer know we're here, then it's going to be pretty tough. So we might give it a break in the next couple of days too and try some other spots and then come back here. If anything else comes out in these last 45 minutes, we'll definitely show it to you, and we'll break in if it's, you know, something that's worthy of a little extra attention. I say tomorrow's going to be another all-day sit. I don't love all-day sits, but that is the way to do it, you know, if you're serious, and this is the time to do it. So check back again tomorrow for the next episode of Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always dream big.